go. Okay. Hi, internet.
Everyone, Brendan.
We're a bunch of teenagers, and we're gonna talk vinyl today. This is our first time doing this, but hopefully we can turn this into a regular music podcast. But we'll see. So let's go around and introduce ourselves before we get started.
Will?
Hi, I'm Evan. Sorry, Will. Do you want to go? Did you want to go? I'm sorry.
I would love to go first. My name is William Lasky, and I am from the band Keep the 11.
Everybody say your favorite band if you can.
Oh, and Zeppelin
Ooh.
rules all.
That's a good pick.
Hi, my name is Reese. I'm a guitar player. I'm a guitar player for Keep the 11. My favorite band is Pink Floyd. Next.
Zeppelin's still better.
My name's Evan Weidel. I also play guitar. I don't have a band right now. I don't know if I have a definitive favorite band, but I like Iron Maiden, as you can see. So.
Oh, I'll go. I'm Brendan Kaplan. I might be in a band with Ferret Bueller, but not really sure. We were supposed
In
to
between
start.
things right now.
We were supposed to start, and then we got kicked off of campus because of COVID-19. So I don't know. Well, favorite band, Queen. Yeah, just Queen.
Nice.
Love them.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm Ryan. I'm Ryan Pirelli. I'm a bass player, and we're trying to do some stuff down at my school. I got a couple side projects going with friends and stuff, and man, I gotta say, I might be on that Pink Floyd bus, man, with the best band.
That's a good choice.
I'm just gonna say, to start off, no, but
All right, and my name is Blake Bittner, brothers with the kid on the bottom left there. I am a novice drum player, the apprentice of Will at the top, and I'd probably say my favorite band is AWOL Nation or Pink Floyd. They kind of go hand in hand.
3-1. I'm the minority here.
Oh, yes.
I'm totally not the minority in any other situation except for this one.
Ooh, man.
Okay, so we're going to start off our conversation regarding vinyl and sort of our experience with vinyl, as we're all under or near the age of 20, so we think it would be interesting to hear our viewpoint from a demographic that isn't really the one that's known for vinyl. So to get started, the first question that we have listed up is, how did you get introduced to vinyl in this digital age?
I'll take this one, Brendan.
Cool. Thank you, William.
So a couple years ago, nothing specific happened. It wasn't like I met a certain person that was into it. I just always was kind of naturally drawn to the whole vintage idea. I mean, that came with loving old music, but once I kind of discovered the vinyl world, I was just kind of naturally drawn to it. And that's when I asked for my record player for my birthday a couple years ago, and then I just have spent every single dollar I've ever earned since on records. It's more of like an art form than a hobby.
Yeah.
That's deep, bro.
Damn.
Yeah.
Who'd like to go next?
I'll go. Disclaimer, I'm definitely the biggest vinyl noob here, but I think I kind of got the same start as Will. Just being into older music, being into bands like Zeppelin and Queen, and the prospect of this entirely different form of listening to music that, not only had the aesthetic quality, the vintage aesthetic quality, but in a lot of cases has a different sound. And, with it making a comeback, I just thought it would be cool to get into it. And so I got a record player a few years ago. I got a couple records, and yeah, I mean, the rest is history.
Cool. I'll go next. So I got introduced to vinyl through my dad. It wasn't necessarily something that was played around the house a lot because there was the jump to SACDs and really high fidelity digital. So they didn't get too much spin. But there's a kid at my high school named Carlos who had a ton of Beatles vinyl, and every day I would see like social media posts about it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I asked for a record player for my 14th or 15th birthday. I think it was my
About the
15th
same age
birthday.
I got into it.
Yeah, so yeah, and it went from there. And it's been a horrible money pit ever since. But, but it's
More
and
Beatles
more.
fan
All of us.
Carlos.
love
Carlos is a powerful man.
Shout out to
he's
Carlos.
incredible. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
Go ahead,
Is
Reese.
there an? Go ahead.
So I guess I got into it. I mean, I remember like when I was younger, like I was probably around like 11 or 12, my mom like popped out like all of her old Madonna vinyls, and I didn't really like get it. I mean, I kind of, the one thing I did like about it, I was like, ooh, DJs use these, like they make the sound like on the turntable. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And I remember Blake bought AWOL Nation's second album, Run, on vinyl. He got it from a Fi store, and I was just like, why are you getting on vinyl? We don't even have a record player. And then I remember the day that we got one, I bought like Ride the Lightning on vinyl. I got Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl. Like that was like, I just had those two vinyls, and like that would kind of just. And then I met like Will, and I met everybody else who loved vinyl, and then it kind of just like dispersed into like a lot bigger part of my life, I would say. So
Yeah, to ring off of that, when I got that vinyl, it was sitting in my room for probably over a year, unplayed, just sealed. And then working at Best Buy, one of my coworkers, after I brought in the vinyl to listen on one of the record players, I listened to it. I'm like, damn, I need one of these. So I just got like a nice, kind of cheap $100 Sony one, and that was what I started with, and it only expanded from there. And now I'm broke. Ryan, what is your story?
Man, I'm a bit of a noob too, you know. One of the first times I ever listened to vinyl, it was like, man, I was 15 and it was Christmas break. I was at my uncle's house for Christmas Eve with my cousins, and he put on, I'll never forget this, he put on like a Beatles like Christmas album. It was just them like pretty much literally doing the same thing. They were just like talking and like kind of playing music and just like having a good time, you know. And I was like, this is pretty epic, you know. And I kind of thought like just having this kind of thing all the time, you know. I really want to do it now.
Just to kind of go off of that, I think a big draw to the whole vinyl thing is just the fact that what I've always said is you're listening to a physical object. You know, when you're listening on your phone, you're just listening to the sound waves, which you wouldn't think makes a difference. But when you can see and feel that you're listening, the music is the vinyl. That's just kind of like, I don't know, there's a certain draw to that, just makes it really cool to listen to.
Also, just in general, vinyl was the medium that got me to finally start listening to albums as albums.
I was gonna
What
say.
before vinyl, it would be whatever the hit was, whatever the singles were, the songs that I knew. But when you're playing a record, and it's a lot more of a pain in the ass to go from like to skip to a certain track you want to hear, it makes more sense to just listen to each side all the way through. And through that, I discovered so much new music that I had never heard before, just because it was like a deep cut. And I don't know, that's just I loved that I loved and still love that I can get introduced to songs that I wouldn't ordinarily have heard through radio play.
I think that's kind of clearly led to, I guess, an increase in value, but a decrease in the frequency of albums that are made to be listened to start to finish. You know, like you said, there's just singles popping out all over the place, and there's no overall meaning. So I guess, like, obviously it decreased the frequency of that happening, but I think in a way it increased the value of when you hear a record that really does all tie together when you listen to it at a whole. From a music standpoint, that just kind of makes you think like this isn't just another ordinary record.
Yeah, I think it just ties in with other mediums, like art, movies, books, with the idea of telling a cohesive story, or even if it's not a cohesive story, having a piece. And I feel like you miss out on so much if you're exclusive to just a few, if you're not listening actively to an album all the way through.
Yeah. I feel like that's a big thing that a lot of people have kind of fell out on, is like a lot of people like I don't know, just a lot of people that I've met. It's like they listen to music and they're like, "Oh, I love music," but they just kind of put it on and it's kind of just like background noise. It's like, "Oh, I love TV," but it's just kind of in the background. Where like if you
Yeah.
listen to a vinyl, you're sitting there and it's it's pretty much a thing that it's like a thing that you're doing. You're part of that process.
You appreciate
You're
it.
the one
You-
exactly.
yeah.
You're the one who's dropping the needle. You could physically feel the vinyl itself. You're part of that process. You have to flip
Part
it
of
over
the
like kind of
experience.
exactly. So
In addition, I mean, I hate surface noise on my vinyl as much as the next person, but the crackle sounds kind of like a campfire. It's like
Mhm.
kind of homey
Oh, absolutely.
when you put a
It's
record.
that nostalgic kind of feel, you know. It's almost like I don't know, just kind of gives you like a warm feeling, you know.
I relate. It's kind of weird, but I kind of relate vinyl to VHS because VHS you got to do everything yourself. You got to play it. You got to rewind it. It's there. It sometimes cracks, shit like that or stuff like that. So I feel like vinyl is kind of the same thing. You kind of have to take care of it. So
I think it's cool how you mentioned the whole crackles and everything. That relates so much to the era of, imperfection. Like obviously the cracks on it don't have any relation to the actual, music, but when you hear a record that's crackly and homey and also isn't like electronically perfect, there's a part where something's slightly out of tune or a Zeppelin song where Page hits a wrong note, stuff like that. It increases just the vibe. I guess that's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I think hearing
Yeah.
sounds like hearing the
Does.
crackle at the beginning just kind of serves as a reminder like this is like how it used to be all the time everywhere. It's this very immersive experience. Or like when the record stops or when you get halfway through the record instead of going to the next song, it just stops. And I'm just kind of sitting there like I don't know, there's just a much different feeling to listening to a song or a record on a vinyl as opposed to your phone for sure.
Also,
Go ahead.
oh sorry, for any adults who are watching this, we came out at the tail end of CDs and right at the forefront of digital. So by the time we became teenagers, CDs were pretty much gone, and we were left with just digital streaming services or iTunes or purchasing music directly. And because of that, having liner notes is something that we've never had really.
Oh,
In
absolutely.
in our experience with music up to this point. And so to be able to see these magnified credits and stories or images, it's such a treat. Like I adore it.
I kind of want to explode on that point a little bit because I think a reason why there's such like a resurgence of vinyl right now is just because of so I've been going through a lot of my dad's old stuff from when he was a kid, and we found a big collection of his cassette tapes, right? And to me, I thought that was really cool, and we found some players that I'm trying to fix up. So I think the whole like old thing is cool. And then we started talking about, like, my mom was telling me about the CD collection. The CD collection didn't really seem as cool to me because, like you mentioned, we were kind of at the tail end of CDs. So in my young age, we still grew up with CDs, so it's not exactly a foreign art to us. And that's why I think vinyl is so cool to us because it's a couple generations away. So it's something that we get to discover just like they did.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. No, that is a great point.
Does anyone have anything else that they just adore about vinyl?
I think this is the time where we throw it in. People make it look cool. I'm looking at you, Third Man Records.
I was
Yeah,
gonna mention Third Man Records too.
Yeah, speaking of that, with Third Man, what are there any artists in particular that I mean I'm sure we're about to go on a tangent about Jack
This is
White,
gonna
but are
go
there any
bad.
artists in particular that are respecting the medium and sort of helping it kind of live a new life?
Jonas
there's
Brothers.
Well, there is
Yes.
this band. There's this band kind of popping out of the Chicago area. They're called B11.
Oh my
I
god.
think they're kind of bringing back a wave.
they're kind of underground though, man.
But seriously
they're
though,
making their way.
I mean, Third Man, definitely. I mean, they've opened a pressing plant, and they're doing analog recordings and live like direct to acetate recordings. It's crazy
Well, I
that
want
we're
to
getting
talk
this in
about that
2020.
because look at Boarding House Reach and a lot of the more recent stuff that Jack White has done solo. There's electronic stuff. So much of that is experimental synth, just wacky stuff that's going on. So at the same time as he's modernizing it, he's still being true to vinyl, which I think is the amazing thing, because people think when you start to modernize music, you move away from vinyl. But he's managed to modernize his music while keeping it, appropriate to the art of vinyl records.
Another artist that I'd like to mention, there's two actually, and I'll group them together as to not spark outrage, but Taylor Swift and Daft Punk both recorded, I don't know if Taylor still does it, but they both recorded their albums completely analog, all the way up through Random Access Memories with Daft Punk was recorded mostly on analog tape. I know the first 2 or 3 Taylor Swift records were also all direct to tape.
I love Taylor Swift.
Well, no, actually, and also Taylor Swift, she recently donated money to pay for Grimey's record store's workers for, I think, 3 months, which I think, I don't know, I feel like they're kind of keeping the medium alive in that sense, in that they're still putting out some, you could be both subjective, but they're still both putting out very popular music that can still use analog means.
Well, that's kind of very relating to what I just said about the whole modernizing. Daft Punk is, in a sense, disco. I don't want to say disco, but
Electronic, but yeah.
Electronic,
well,
right.
There's so much, but...
Right. Yeah, you just mentioned them as one of the bands that's taking the whole analog thing going. So that's pretty amazing to me.
So, let's talk about the gear we've got.
Yeah.
Anybody have some good gear?
Vinyl wise?
Yeah. Or
Well-
just in general, you got any good gear?
Well,
Sure.
that could be a very long conversation. But vinyl.
That's a whole
wise-
other episode for Will.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. That's just me talking for 2 hours straight. I mean, freaking this thing. And
You know what? We'll give you a special where you can just talk about all of your gear for 2 hours.
We're gonna
okay?
do a recap on just like an overview of what we got.
Yes.
drum miking is just.
No, not that type of gear,
I
bonehead.
know.
Vinyl gear. I was vinyl.
I was throwing it out there.
Just keeping options open.
I'll go first.
I have.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Go for it, Brendan.
So I've got.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I've got an Audio Technica LP120 hooked up to a 1980 modular component system receiver, and then some speakers that were meant for a 7-channel setup, but I just only have the subwoofer and the left and right channels. But yeah, so that's my gear. What about you guys?
I have.
I have the really.
So, am I
Oh my God,
talking?
I'm sorry.
Am I going
Go
through?
on. Go for it. Go for it.
Wait, I can't.
I'll find my time.
No, whenever Evan talks, I can't hear him.
You
It's
have
really
noise.
odd. Okay, Evan, you go first because I can't hear you.
Okay.
'Cause it was really muted, so that's why I just jumped in.
Evan, why don't you just leave?
No.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay, Evan.
Wow.
Evan, what's your gear?
Okay, I have the really standard like
Crosley Cruiser.
starter pack. No, it's not even a Crosley. I don't think. No, it's
It's
not.
worse.
But
When he
Yeah.
doesn't.
yeah, I know that's it's like Victrola or something. But you know what? If I was a vinyl a vinyl buff, like obviously that would be a travesty. But I'm not. So it works for me. My sister has a better one. It's better than a Crosley. I know that. It might be like Brendan, what was the one that you had?
So I have the Audio Technica 120. Their cheapest is the 60.
Yeah. That
An
one's like
Audio
$100.
Technica. But it's hooked up to some like old stereo we found in our grandparents' house, and it sounds great. So Yeah, and she has a lot more vinyls than I do too. Damn it.
My man said vinyls.
Oh yeah.
Vinyls.
Time to die.
Somebody said
Keep
vinyl.
forgetting. I'm sorry. It's vinyl.
Vinyl equipment wise, I have the first record player I got. My dad bought me a U-turn audio Kickstarter project. It's really nice. And then I got it hooked up to I got an NAD amp, which goes along with these two studio monitors that my dad has had since the 90s. He said he bought these speakers out of a truck back in the 90s. I don't know what, but they're pretty nice, and I use them for the recording setup too because they're studio monitors. But everything kind of juices together nicely. And then up in my room, thanks to Reese and my birthday, I got an Audio Technica. I forget which model it was. And then some nice speakers up there.
Hey, I pitched in on that too.
Thank you, Blake. I didn't know that, but thank you, Blake.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh no.
Evan has disappeared. Oh, he's back. We're
Oh,
good.
hey.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I just like the record player. The one that's up in my room is nice for being in my room just because it has the auto stop at the end. So if I'm listening to a Cage record falling asleep, it'll not grind into the label.
Can't relate on
Exactly.
that one. Reese, go
'Cause
ahead.
you don't sleep.
Go ahead, Reese.
Reese.
He definitely can't hear us right now.
Uh-oh, can I hear us? Uh-oh.
no.
that's okay. Ryan, Blake, you guys got any gear?
Of course. I'm the
What's
one
your
who
setup,
got
Blake?
Reese into gear. So,
Damn.
are we gonna include speakers too on this?
Reese,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can't
go for it.
hear
Um,
you.
So, I'll talk about my speakers first. I have Bowers and Wilkins, 685s. They're bookshelf, 5-inch or 6.5-inch speakers. Very good for music, TV, everything. I have hooked up to a receiver for everything. And then as far as my record player goes, it is the Audio Technica. I gotta read the model number. The Audio Technica ALP5. It's a direct drive turntable, and I am not blessed to have on it an auto stop feature. But
Same with mine.
the cartridge on it is I think it's like the red Audio Technica one, and it's like super easily expandable, so I'm planning to put like one of the Ofron blue ones that are like $300 on it down the road. But for now, that's what I got.
Yeah, I mean the audio stop is this auto stop isn't really that much of an issue when I don't have it, but it's nice when I do.
I think it's a
Ryan,
huge feature. I think it's
Sorry.
super necessary, especially when you're like falling asleep. Like I fall asleep to records all the time, and I mean when I wake up in the morning, the vinyl's off because if that thing kept on spinning, I mean it would create a huge groove in the middle of the record.
I can or cannot confirm that has happened to me before. Rest in peace, some of my vinyl.
All right, should I go about my gear?
Sure.
Let's hear it.
All right, I have a Sony the 310 BT Sony record player. I have that running into a Denon the 540 BT receiver, and then I have that running into a pair of the 2019 Bauer and Wilkins 606 series speakers bookshelves. It's a very good setup, and then I also have a Definitive Technology the 808 bass subwoofer. And that one's pretty
I
cool
also
too.
have that subwoofer. Good taste,
Those
Reese.
subs make such a difference.
All right, Ryan, what have you got?
I'm in the market for some new gear actually. We just picked our roommates for next semester, and I'm rooming with a friend of mine, Miles, and two other guys in a suite.
This semester
And-
that'll never happen.
We're hoping, but yeah, we were talking about. We're like, guys, we gotta hook up with some new sound system because my friend Seth, who's gonna be in the suite, he's got a whole PC and he's got like some pretty good speakers. But we got to get a player. So I'm thinking, me and my new roommate Miles, I think we're gonna chip in for. I think we might go for a Sony because I've heard they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we're gonna go for, because I hope, because you already know we're gonna like pretty much blast stuff till like at least 4 a.m, I'd say.
Right.
At the least. So yeah, so I'm thinking something like that.
Cool. Yeah, on the topic of gear, my current cartridge is a music direct, or no, it's a mobile fidelity studio tracker, which is a problem because, and this ties into one of the downsides of vinyl, is to replace it, it's $200, and I don't have $200 to just like toss on a cartridge. And
Ooh.
so that the one major downside to vinyl is the cost, both in maintaining the gear and in the records themselves.
Or if you want to upgrade it.
Yeah. All right. So we've kind of touched on this before, but why do you guys think vinyl has made its grand comeback over the past decade? Anybody?
Ooh.
Probably just a desire for nostalgia and anything vintage. I mean, I think vinyl, obviously, like I said before, there's a massive vintage aesthetic quality to vinyl. And, it allows, I think, a listener to be more creative. It allows more flexibility when you're listening because you have the options, it kind of makes listening to music like less of just a simple activity and more into like a full out hobby. Like, that's how it is with you guys, where you guys can talk about all this gear, vinyl. It really just takes not only listening to music to the next level, but it's cool to have something that was once so widely popular that was replaced, but now that it's coming back, it's trendy, but still vintage.
Well, I really like what you said about kind of that desire for nostalgia, because I think in this world that is becoming so, to put it lightly, boring, there's so much like conformity that's happening. I think people are subconsciously getting sick of this conformity and are trying to look for something that branches out from the same old, same old. And I think vinyl kind of offers that, like, that's cool. That sets me apart. That vibe that kind of, that people have a desire for.
I think, if you look like in the history of vinyl, it's like at one point it was the thing to listen to music to, and then the whole like forward movement of making music easier to listen to, like Brendan was saying, it turned into cassettes, and then by whenever CDs came into play, like the 90s, when people started using those, it just automatically phased out vinyl. And the reason why it's coming back now, I believe, is just I think one part of it is an aesthetic feel to it. Like, I love having vinyl as a collector's item. I like art on some of my synthwave vinyls. They're beautiful, very well made, the colors and everything like that. And then obviously the second part is being able to have a high fidelity audio output listening thing, and there is a whole community that is backed by it and supports it and wants it to grow even more than it already has.
I also think that just in regards to having a physical collection, it feels like you have almost like a part of the artist themselves. Say there was like a massive, crazy internet outage and we lost all streaming services. You would still have, regardless of if it's vinyl, cassettes, or CDs, you have a physical copy of this artist's work, a physical copy that with analog technology can be reproduced. So I think it just, I don't know, I feel closer, especially to a smaller artist, if I'm purchasing their record, especially if there's any like more personal liner notes than something you would find on like a Justin Timberlake record or something like that.
I think there's. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I was going to jump on kind of what Brendan said. I think that's a really good point in the sense of we're in such an age at which we have, millions of songs at, our fingertips that like a lot of people just don't really appreciate, like, hey, I just spent $8 on 2 songs. Like it's that kind of stuff. And I think one of the big things is like, for example, like I think like supporting a lot of bands, because like a lot of small bands, whether that's Fashion Jackson, Iron Tom, like a lot of these super small bands, they're not making any money from streaming services. Why? Because Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Prime, nothing pays at all. Like,
It's all
yeah, it's great that you have ads. Exactly. It's all corrupt. The entire system is. So I think it's really cool that these bands are releasing vinyl, they're releasing CDs, even cassettes, and that's your way of supporting the band.
Beach Bunny.
Bunny.
Beach
Hey,
Bunny.
John.
Nice.
I think there's a huge change, an obvious change in what vinyl actually means, because here's a record. Me and a friend were clearing out his garage. His dad's kind of like a junk hoarder, so there's a bunch of stuff in there. And we were cleaning it out, and we found this very old, like Victor record player from like the 20s, and this bad boy was on it. And it's Sewanee River Dreams by Wendell Hall and Carson Robinson. And I looked it up. This is from, I think, 1924. And back in this time, this was how you listened to music. Like, there was no choice. And I think if you brought vinyl back to people who grew up with vinyl, they'd think, or a lot of them would think, why are you still listening to this? Because there's so many easier ways, just because this was the only way they could listen to it. And that's why vinyl has turned into more of a hobby than a necessity for us. It's because back then, listening to vinyl, the actual act of listening to vinyl wasn't the hobby part. The hobby part was the music, because there was no other way. But now, since we have our options, vinyl has turned into an actual hobby, not just, a way of listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
Well, $20, you destroy your cartridge on your record player by playing the 78, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Destroy your cartridge. So, does everyone remember the first record they bought?
Yes.
Yep.
Can
Do
I go
tell.
first?
Ooh.
Of course. I brought mine.
Alright.
I brought mine with me.
So I have a lot of family down in Austin, Texas, which, by the way, I think is one of the coolest places in the entire world, and it's so much different than the rest of Texas.
That's
but
correct.
I think, yeah. But I think it was so inspiring to go to a place like that, and I think places like that was why I was so drawn to vinyl. But there's this place there called Waterloo Records, pretty big down there. Just a pretty big record shop, and I think we were just walking around Austin once, and this was before I even had a record player. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna buy one. And I've mentioned before to you guys that Green Day is one of my favorite bands. Obviously that comes with criticism, but I was in the store and I found the Green Day section, and I think I was looking for some of their older, less seen albums, but I walked out with American Idiot, which, I believe is one of the greatest albums of all time, but obviously that wouldn't be my first choice for a first, deep record. But I think I also walked out with some AC/DC record. Yeah, I think that was a big reason why I get a record player, because I had these records and I was like, this is cool enough having these records. Let's go play those.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. I bought it 2 months before. I knew the record player was coming, but I bought it before, like long before I had the record player, and it was the 2014 reissue of Led Zeppelin's Untitled.
4 of those.
Nice.
Yeah.
You have 4 Wait, you
I
have 4 copies of that?
I have 3.
But
Oh my god.
I don't know. When I was first looking for vinyl, I was like, okay, let me pick a rock album where I know every single song that's on it. Barring a couple, I think there were maybe 1 or 2 that I hadn't listened to off of this album. But I don't know. It felt like a no-brainer first album pick.
Quick hot take about Led Zeppelin 4. It is not the best Zeppelin.
I
It's
feel like
really
a lot of
not.
people
That's-
can agree with that.
I feel like a lot of people would agree with that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree it's not their best.
I mean, a lot of surface
I agree
level
with that.
people, Stairway to Heaven, people are like, yeah, you don't think Zeppelin 4 is the best record? Like, hell no.
Yeah. But
I don't know,
actual
but-
Zeppelin fans are going to be split pretty evenly among most of the albums.
I
Zeppelin
would
2 is the greatest album of all time.
I would still
Hot take.
probably put
Uh,
Led Zeppelin 4 in high contention for their best album. But
Oh, yeah.
I can
Contention.
definitely see why some would.
Anyways,
Anyway,
vinyl.
Yeah, continue.
So you still going, Brendan?
no, I'm done.
Right. So I got my record player for Christmas. I think it was freshman, maybe sophomore year. And I got a couple records with it. But the first record, I don't know if this was the first or second record I ever bought. But Brendan, it was with you. We were at Goodwill and we were looking at the finals and I didn't really see anything. And I saw this in the case.
Oh yeah, I
21.
remember that.
I knew I had to have it. And the lady said, and it says $6.99 on there, but it was $1. I got 2112 for $1. If I don't know if you can really see it, but it's pretty beat up. Of course, you have this amazing photo. It still sounds great. I think there were a couple scratches on it that you could really hear, but I thought this was a really great record to have. This is one of the best prog rock albums, one of the best rock albums, really.
It's also one of those records that are so good for listening from start.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, especially because being like a concept album where the side one is one song in 7 movements, 20 minutes long.
Every single record is like a goddamn book.
Yeah, I mean, listen to a record like Hemispheres where it's like 4 songs and I think it's over an hour long. But no, it's not over an hour, but yeah, a record like this was perfect because you have, the side 1, which is one 20-minute long song, and then side 2, which is just a bunch of normal rock tracks. But yeah, I thought I was really lucky to find one in decent condition for $1. So I think I might have bought Who's Next by The Who before that, but this is the one that I remember buying the most.
If you don't own Who's Next, you don't have the right to have a record player.
That's an incredible album.
It is.
It is.
All right, first records. Who hasn't gone yet?
I was kind of similar. I got a pretty good, one of my favorite albums, to be honest, and definitely my favorite by the band. I got it as a Christmas gift, as like a joke, kind of, but I was like, this is actually really cool. I got it from my Uncle Tommy, he gave me the Yes album. You guys know that one?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Yes album, dude.
All Good
oh my
People.
God.
I see All Good People.
Yeah, Starship Troopers on that.
Yeah.
Man. Really
Ooh.
vibing album. And I was just like, hey, do you got any more? And he's like, I got some more. So he kind of just like gradually just like started giving me more like just like random stuff, like albums, like posters and like music books and stuff. He'd just give it to me sometimes like for Christmas or my birthday.
Yes is such a good vinyl band.
Yeah, that one is probably my favorite album, I'd say.
Can I just throw out there that one time for Christmas, I bought my dad an Air Supply record as a joke.
Did he vibe with it?
Wow. Wow,
Wait.
That's pretty bad, Will.
Was it like a used Air Supply record, or are they actually reissuing their albums?
I don't think it was reissued. I got it at Kiss
Okay.
and Scott. So yeah,
That would blow my mind.
it was. He wanted to kick me out of the house, but we all knew that. I actually think the first thing he said is, "This was a joke, right?" Like he knew I would never, in my right mind, buy an Air Supply record.
Okay.
There
Wow.
aren't any Air Supply fans.
Dude, my dad loves Air Supply.
If you're an Air Supply fan, just don't listen to this podcast.
The first album I bought, Reese already talked about, was Run. So I'll talk about the second one. I think it might have been the second, but it was also a Yes album. It was Fragile. And the reason why I want it is because I love Roundabout so much. And I don't know, I saw it in a record store. I think I went with Reese one day. It was at Rediscover. And I was like, it was like $8. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking that. I'm buying that. And that was like the first that was my first used vinyl, I guess I ever bought versus the new one. So it had like the feel that it's been played. It feels like warm when you listen to it. The whole album is honestly a whole vibe, but
Nice.
For me, it's kind of funny because I remember talking about this in Music Club last year, or Music Enthusiast Club.
Thanks,
We
Brendan.
talked about our 2 favorite albums of all time, And it's funny because I just noticed that the three first albums I ever got on record, way before I even talked about my favorite albums list, I all bought them on the same day. So I would count. I bought 3 records the same day. You could see it in the photo. I got Dark Side of the Moon, I got Wish You Were Here, and I got
course.
Ride the Lightning, all on the
Okay.
same day. So those are my 3 favorite. Why? Because
What's your favorite band?
Pink Floyd.
What is it?
Pink Floyd.
What's up?
Did you say Florida Georgia Line?
So,
Guys,
why?
we already
Because
went over
in
it.
my,
It's Air Supply. Let's go. Let's move on.
in my opinion, Pink Floyd is the greatest band to listen to on vinyl. Like, people listen to Dark Side of the Moon. It's one way if you listen to it with headphones on, but it's one way if you actually play the record on vinyl. So,
Yeah,
Also,
I'm ashamed to not own that record on
Lightning
vinyl.
on vinyl. I don't know why. It doesn't sound that great because it's a heavy metal record, but I got it because I love that record.
all of Pink Floyd's like, again, just a treat when it comes to their vinyl, because their originals all sound fantastic, but the reissues also sound fantastic. So
Yeah.
there's like, you really can't go wrong.
Well, and also they're the masters of concept albums, so it's meant to be listened to on vinyl.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Will says Pink Floyd is master of concept album.
I said master of concept.
I'm gonna bring this up in 15 years.
I-
Will's roasting me.
I would debate. I would vote for the Who in that matter, but any
Over
Who,
Pink Floyd?
they did it first. They did it
Well,
first.
just in terms of
That doesn't mean they did it better.
Man,
That's
a hard
true.
debate.
They're the
Okay, you know what? We'll talk
Anyway,
about concept albums on another episode. I'm gonna
Yeah.
write that down in our ideas list.
We'll do that. Another album that I brought is, I think it was the 4th album that I ever purchased, but the reason I brought it for this podcast was because it's the first ever album from a new artist, like a current artist that I purchased. And that and that record
Go
was
away.
Alabama Shakes Sound and Color. I didn't know a single song off of this record, but I heard that it was being hyped as one of the best rock releases of the year. Oh, that's such a pretty package. And so it was my first ever new rock album that I bought, and it's one of my favorite ever albums. Because Brittany Howard's voice is amazing. It's on this clear
Okay, but guys,
vinyl.
guys, what about this new rock release?
Will,
Look at that bad boy.
If I
That's
bought
cool.
that,
as soon as
my-
quarantine
oh, no,
ends,
that
I'm gonna
color's
drive to
cool.
your house. I'm gonna break that record in half.
No,
You
the
can do
color
better,
is
okay,
sick.
buddy?
The color is sick, but the music is not.
To be fair, I pre-ordered this like the day that they announced the album before I knew it was bad. I still. Don't
I knew it
regret
was gonna be bad as soon as they announced it and saw that cover. But you know what, Will? If I destroy that record, it's only because I care about you and what you listen to.
I
Okay.
still think it was like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a record deal record to like get off
Like they
their
did it
deal
to
with
get
Warner
out.
Bros.
Yeah, yeah. I could see
Yeah.
that.
Like
Oh,
they-
it completely was.
the Green Day is
Absolutely.
not. Billy Joe is a fantastic songwriter. Like obviously everyone has their bad songs, but there's some songs on there that's like, really, dude.
Yeah.
Even though I still love the album.
Does anyone have any particularly favorite packages?
I have a
of
favorite
record?
package.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, first off,
God.
before Will just goes and grabs everything, I would say any Third Man Records vault stuff. That's right, Third
The
Man
vault.
Record. These guys.
That's the one I brought.
Yeah, any Third Man Records vault package, 10 out of 10 automatically. They just do such a good job. They always do a vinyl of some sort. They throw in like a 7-inch or a flexi disc or some
DVD.
odd, and then like some photo package. So you got stuff to look at, throwing like stickers, patches, whatever. One of the ones I had that actually brought down was William Patrick Corgan, Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. His newest solo album, Coalitions. I really, really like this album, and this came.
Wait, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Coalitions is how it's
Okay.
pronounced. I paid $150 for this record
Oh,
Holy
because
shit!
I got
Whoa.
it signed.
Right.
It's signed by Billy Corgan, and then it also
there we
came with a bunch of photos and stuff, and then the vinyl itself is also like this very cool like marbled red.
oh, I was gonna say that looks so weird coming through
Groovy.
the video feed.
Yeah.
That's so
There,
sick,
you
though.
can kind of pick it up.
Yeah, because it's coming through like the glare. So that's one of the records that I had. that I brought because I just absolutely love this vinyl. Okay, I have one more though, and then I'll let somebody else talk. One of the records that like nobody understands in a band that sounds really, really good on record. It's a whole different vibe. Can anybody guess what the band is?
I need more hint than that.
White Reaper. I mean, that's true, but that's definitely not who you're talking about.
Air Supply.
Oh,
Lil
Death
Wayne.
Grips.
Oh, Death.
Ex-military baby. Death Grips is the greatest band to listen to on vinyl because it's so
I thought Pink
awful.
Floyd was
The
the greatest.
player just wants to shoot itself.
Oh,
You couldn't,
Oh.
you couldn't pull out
I
the
like
one
the-
with the genitalia on the front.
No,
like
that's
the-
in
no,
my
it's not.
room. That's in my
I like
room.
this record
I like the
because
one.
Blake's
It's
like,
like
that's
a
in my room.
it's like a
I like the one with the dude in like the horror mask at the money store. That
I like
record
this record.
freaks me out.
This one's like in like a piss yellow.
Yeah,
It's a real
piss
good
yellow,
color.
dude.
There's literally nothing more Death Grips than making your vinyl piss yellow.
Love that.
It's a double LP.
That reminds me, I have a bootleg copy of a Kanye West's Yeezus that sounds like the album sounds like a dumpster fire, but the mastering on it sounds worse than anything I own physically, whether it be tape or CD. It is
Are you
the
saying
worst.
that? Are you saying that Black Skinhead is a bad song?
I'm not. No, it's a phenomenal song. I'm saying
Yeah,
the
you
bootleg
played
I
that.
have, the bootleg I have is atrocious.
I want to make a point here. This
Okay,
is kind
if-
of
If Yeezus sounds trash on vinyl, how does 808 sound?
I'm sure it sounds good because it got an official vinyl release, whereas Yeezus didn't. Or at least
I can't listen to 808s.
I kind of want to make a point here that goes off of what Brennan said a little bit ago about the liner notes thing. The importance of the actual like visual art that's put on records, that is such a lost concept and it hurts, and that's why vinyl is so ridiculously important. Like this is the vault reissue of Concerts of the Lonely Raconteurs. Like this is just, it's just something to look at. It's just so like when you open it up, it's just so vital to understanding the vibe of the actual record. And when you're trying to look at one of these sides through your tiny phone, like you're just not getting the essence of it.
Well, you don't even get the sides. Usually on streaming services, you get the front cover, and that's absolutely
Exactly.
it.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite vinyls aesthetically and sound-wise. And I'm putting it up on the screen. I'm covering your face for a sec, Evan. But it is the C418 Minecraft Alpha vinyl. And it's in
Yeah.
lime green, transparent, and the middle inner thing that covers where the needle goes in, it's like the top of grass block, and on the back it's like the dirt block part. But
The center label.
yes, thank you.
Okay.
I cannot think. But
Okay.
it's just like, it's so simplistic, but at the same time, like, it's pretty much my ultimate flex when like I have friends come over. I'm like, look what I got on vinyl. And then like all my friends playing Minecraft through the years, and they're like, yeah, let's listen to that. So
I'll jump in now. My favorite package, or not, my favorite package is the Beatles and Mono box set, but that's too bulky. So I'm going with my second favorite pick, which is the Third Man Records reissue of Trout Mask Replica. I did not buy the vault. I got this at a charity auction for $20. And it's so worth it.
Wait, Brenda, was it the charity auction that
That's
we
the
and Will
one that
Yes.
we played.
Yes.
That was it. I remember watching you like desperately bid on that.
I couldn't believe I was getting it for this cheap because it goes for hundreds on eBay. But this vinyl, oh my goodness,
Oh my god.
looks
Oh my
ridiculous.
god.
And in addition to that, it comes with like a full lyric fold out, a postcard from Jack White. It's just, there's so much in this package. And a 7-inch. There's a 7-inch that comes with it as well. Let me see what color it's on. I think it's on yellow. Piss yellow. No, it's on white. It's on white. I was wrong. It's white vinyl. But I don't know. This package just has so much, and for the price, so worth the money. Even if the album is, I guess it's listenable because but it's unlistenable because it's breaking all musical I don't know. I appreciate it though. I'm glad I have it in my collection. Any other great packages?
Yes.
Keep going, Ryan.
No, Zevin.
What? Am
No,
I dumb?
Zevin.
Oh, so I have a copy of
Sorry.
Magical Street Tour vinyl. There was a inside. There's a photo collection from like behind the scenes from like the short film. Like if you watch like the Your Mother Should Know when they're doing that, it had just like behind the scenes photos, and there was like a portrait of them that I like just pinned on my wall because I thought it was so cool. And I realized after I looked at it, that those were Paul is dead conspiracy because John, Ringo, and George were wearing red roses, but Paul was wearing a black one. And I also have suicidal tendencies. Suicidal tendencies. Yeah.
Nice. I was gonna say you cut out a bit from there, but I assume you were talking about the photo booklet for Magical Mystery Tour.
That's exactly what I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Cool.
And I thought it was awesome. And then I had Suicidal
Proud of you,
Tendencies
Brendan.
first record on vinyl. So in this like clear red, I thought it was cool.
It is a pretty record.
All right, I have a very, very, very important record that must be discussed.
Oh God.
That you will all
I
be-
swear to God, if it's 5150, I'm gonna cry.
I love 5150, but it does not deserve this introduction. And this is like vinyl wise too.
See, now I love this record and I love the gimmicks, but I think the gimmicks are a detriment to actually playing the record. Because it's a pain in the ass to start. And then
But the fact that you
It's-
play it backwards
I know, it's so sick, but it's
for practical purposes, it's just not that practical. But
Yeah.
for the idea, it's just and the little angel.
twirling. Yeah.
Yeah, and the hologram.
Dude.
Yeah, I think that's just taking vinyl in a whole new direction. Vinyl's been around since. Brendan, do you have something to say?
Yes, with that record, it's the only record I think ever that plays at 33, 45, and 78 PM because under the center labels hidden songs that if you
Yes.
put the needle on,
Yes.
you can play at 45 on one side and on 78 on the other.
On the other, yep. I was about
So
to say
cool.
that.
Whoa.
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I think it's just amazing that he's doing stuff like that, especially like with just because vinyl has obviously been around for so long that it's just taking it in a whole new direction. It's taking an old dog and teaching it new tricks.
It's a good analogy. That.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for appreciating me.
Oh.
I need that right about now.
Does anyone have any records that sound great? Like things that you bought on vinyl where you're like, yeah, this is why I got into vinyl. Like,
I have more vaults.
I'd
Oh,
say
God.
that album, even though I don't actually own it, Reese has it, was Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl, and we had it at work. And the first time I ever listened to Dark Side of the Moon was literally fixing some dude's record player. I was like, he came up to the return center, and he was like, yo, my record player doesn't work. I'm like, let's fix it. And we put it up on the Geek Squad bench, and this was when I worked on the sales floor. And we put it up, and I plugged it into the little crappy Sony 2-inch speakers that we had at the Geek Squad precinct, and there was a receiver set up. And I go into our Magnolia listening room, and I snag one of the vinyls, and I wasn't really paying attention to what I grabbed. And I grabbed Dark Side of the Moon, and I played it. And I played Time. I just literally went to that, and I'm like,
Oh man.
what is this? And then after that, I was like, I want to listen to this. So I literally after that shift, I just sat after work and I listened through the entire thing.
That's a
On
transcendent-
our good record player, it's like a dead end record player, and on our $5,000 speaker setup. So I spoiled myself listening to vinyl the first time, but won't forget. And then Reese came by and we listened to it as well.
Can we talk about one of the most underrated vinyl bands, The Strokes? like it is. They're at first listen, they're not a band that you would associate with vinyl, but there's nothing better than listening to the Strokes on record. It's just a different experience.
They have a
Yeah.
kind of punchiness that I don't own any of their albums, but I'm sure it comes through.
Mhm.
As long as their pressings are good, I'm sure it comes through.
Yeah.
That kind of
No, I-
lo-fi, like just kind of dry. Go
My
ahead, Reese.
oh, sorry, Reese, did you say something?
Oh, I was gonna say, no, I completely agree. I wasn't really expecting the Strokes to be a really good band on vinyl, but even when you listen to like This Is It, or especially their new record, like it comes on vinyl like unbelievably well. I also started picking up a lot of Mac DeMarco albums on vinyl as well as cassette, and his music, he records everything on analog tape, so he has that same kind of physical feel to it. Like it's unbelievable on vinyl too.
Just one more thing about the Strokes before you go, Brendan. I think a huge part of that is Julian Casablancas' voice. There's just
Oh.
that warmth to it that just makes it so cool to listen to. I think that's one of the huge pushes for that.
So my best sounding record, ever since I've bought it, I've called it my best sounding record because it blows my mind every time I
Drum
listen
roll.
to it. Daft Punk's
Yeah.
Random Access Memory. It's just, it has so many different types of instrumentation. I think, was it Give Life Back to Music? Or no, it's Giorgio, not their first song. There's a song called Giorgio that starts off electronic, and by the time the song ends, it's a full band, like a full rock band performing. And it bridges the gap between electronica and analog music, I think, really well. That, and it was recorded analog. I'm not sure if it was mastered analog, but I believe it was mixed in analog. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like nothing else in my collection. Any things that come close to it, any of the Mono Beatles albums sound incredible. There's a Steven Wilson reissue of Aqualung by Jethro Tull that also sounds incredible. And do I have anything else listed? Oh, I have an OG copy of American Beauty by Grateful Dead. That also sounds awesome. Like this Daft Punk record. Holy crap.
I want to go with that Grateful Dead.
That's a
Also,
vibing album.
also shout out to Ryan because he's probably the biggest Deadhead here. But I picked up their first record, OG Print. It was like the week before we all went into quarantine, and that's just that first record. Quality wise, I wouldn't say it's the best sounding on vinyl, but just those songs, just I can't explain it. It's just they mend together. It's
Mhm.
They're good. They're good. I think I know we're talking about sound, but Grateful Dead. I'd say Songs for Allah. That's probably one of my favorites. Or Working Man's Dead. Those are really good.
Mhm.
they've just got such a unique combination of instruments, especially for that time, that it kind of I think it's cool how well that comes through on the vinyl.
All right, well, do we have anything else to add?
Oh man.
Man,
Are
are
we
we
set?
nearing are we nearing the end of the podcast?
We're almost at the 1 hour mark.
I think we are.
Are we gonna call it at
Oh
1
my
hour?
god.
Man, that was an hour. Holy crap.
Yeah, that was an hour. Cool.
Do we
Okay.
say?
Are we really surprised that we could talk about finals for an hour?
No.
He said it again. Vinyls, dude.
Ah!
Oh my god! What is wrong with me?
The title of this podcast is going to be
I'm gonna tell
calls the plural of vinyls 3 times in the same hour.
Okay, well,
That's fair.
I guess let's do an outro then.
do we say our favorite albums, not just sounding wise, but just in general? Or?
Favorite albums? Yeah, we can end this with our favorite albums.
Let's end it.
I'll go first, sure. My favorite album is Queen's
Night at the Opera.
A Night at the Opera. Yes, sir.
Nice.
It's so experimental for their sound. Not something that was like a particular contrast to their two prior records, but Queen and Night at the Opera, man, that album is just ridiculously good, start to finish. I can go more in depth, but I'll just leave it at that.
Reese, go ahead. You look excited.
My man went.
I would say, okay, so for me finishing up, I got 3 records. Number 1, Animals by Pink Floyd. That still and will ever be my favorite album of all time. Number 2,
Oh, wow.
I have Help a Stranger by the one and only The Raconteurs. And then number 3, an album I have on vinyl that a lot of people are jealous of is Siamese Dream by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Ooh.
I'm
Oh
so
yeah,
jealous.
because it's $50. Cheapest
It's
copy.
impossible
is
to
$50.
get it without spending your entire life savings.
I know.
I saw it at the Barnes and Noble. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll pick that up. And it was like $50. I'm like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not
production-
paying $50 for that.
Yeah, the production is just so ridiculous on that album that it's, in some circumstances, it's worth $50.
Yeah.
Mine would have to be the wonderful rock opera, The Wall.
Ooh.
It's a classic.
Great album.
It's all the way through. You know, when I first listened to it, like A-side, B-side, Forever Love. But then when I listen all the way through, I have like a newfound love for appreciating the C and D side even more than the first half.
Is there anybody out there freaks me out in my stereo? It scares the crap out of me, especially if I'm listening to it all the way.
That
It kind of can sneak
that
up on you
sounds-
if you're not expecting it.
I'll go and then we'll let Ryan close it out. But my number one's got to be Zeppelin 2. I don't want to go all the way bold as to say it's the number one greatest album of all time, but I've definitely said that before. Whether it's true or not, it's definitely, I believe, one of the all-time greats, or it is one of the all-time greats, and it is my number one. It's just there's not a bad song on it. Every song is just so perfect, and that record is one of the perfect examples of perfection, you know.
Mm.
And I think Ramble On is just one of the best songs ever written. It's just,
Oh yeah.
I will never ever
That's a
get,
killer song. That's a killer song, yeah.
I mean, like combining that, you know, peaceful, almost acoustic, you know, vibe at the beginning, and then just completely changing it and murdering everything during the, you know, the chorus. It's just, yeah, that's a masterpiece. Ryan, on to you.
I'd say I'm with Blake here. Although I kind of got 2. Definitely The Wall. It is just like, man, like it was the first Pink Floyd album I ever listened to, and I'm like, man, this is just fantastic. But I got a soft
I guess
spot
I'll
for the
just
White
quit
Album.
being a Zeppelin.
Yes,
I'm
White
telling how many times we
I've-
talk about Pink Floyd.
I vibe with the White Album. Like I love Abbey Road and like I love Sgt. Pepper, but I don't know what it is about the White Album. It's just like every song on there
It's
just
underrated.
is a masterpiece. It really is, yeah.
The
Like, I
Beatles
just-
will be an incredible discussion, but that's an amazing album.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's I don't know, just recently too, I've just been listening to it more and more. I'm just like, man, this is just like it's just the best, I think, to me.
I still can't listen to Revolution 9 though. Like,
Yeah, that's the one that's like
I have respect for sound collages. It's just not.
Why don't we do it in the road? That's my favorite song on the album.
Classic, a masterpiece of songwriting. But actually, though, that whole album.
Ryan, okay, Happiness is a Warm Gun is probably the most underrated Beatles song.
I'd say it is.
Just saying.
I agree with
It's
that.
up there. It's up there. Doesn't get played too often. So that's
I feel like your blues is that John.
No, it is.
Yeah.
all right.
like-
Well, I think we're done with the podcast.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so
Favorite.
if you've made it this far, holy crap, good for you. That's amazing.
Yo,
Hit the subscribe button.
Brendan,
Hit the subscribe button, like, share.
Brendan,
Yes.
I didn't do my top 3.
What?
Oh.
I'm so sorry. Do your top 3.
Oh, am I cutting out again?
A little bit.
Wow. Okay.
This is what you get when you say vinyls.
Okay.
You guys said finish
Fine.
it off with Ryan, so I assumed we were done.
Yeah, that was my bad.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna. Whatever. All right. To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick
sorry.
Lamar, Rage Against the Machine, self-titled, Master of Puppets. That's it. 3
Great
favorite
pick.
ever.
That's just
Ooh,
so
those are
solid.
good.
Like,
Those are good.
You just can't argue with those. Those are just some of the all-time.
They're all the top of their genre. Yeah. Okay. So what I was saying before, I'm so sorry, Evan. If you made it this far, congratulations.
No,
Really impressive.
It's okay. It's okay.
Like, subscribe to whatever platform this is on. And hopefully we'll do more of these soon. But thank you guys so much for
Smash that like button!
Oh.